वेलकम टू बिटू नेट कोड चैनल। सो गाइस, इस वीडियो में हम देखने वाले हैं राउटर बूटिंग प्रोसेस। So whenever we boot the router, first of all post process happens, right? So post के बाद in the post process, router will check the hardware configuration of router. After that, it looks for the configuration register. Let me show you all the uh, step by step process. Okay, so what happens whenever router is powered on? Okay, first of all, it will run the power on self test. So there is a bootstrap program in the ROM. Okay, that is also called a mini iOS. So that bootstrap checks the configuration register value to specify from where to load the iOS, from where to load the internetwork operating system of a router. So by default, the value of configuration register is 2102 in hexadecimal. That is 0x0x2102. So the router first looks up for the boot system commands in the startup config file. So if it finds these commands, it will run the boot system commands in order they appear in the startup config to locate the iOS. If not, the iOS image is loaded from flash. If the iOS is not found in Flash, the bootstrap can try to load the iOS from TFTP server or from ROM. And in ROM we have the mini iOS. Now let's suppose the iOS is found from Flash. Okay, it is loaded into RAM. Then iOS attempts to load the configuration file, that is startup configuration file from NVRAM. NVRAM is a non-volatile memory, non-volatile random access memory. So it is also a permanent memory that can be written and erased. So if the startup config is not found in the NVRAM, the iOS attempts to load the configuration file from TFTP. If there is no TFTP, then the router enters into setup mode. That is the initial configuration mode. So there are four character values of hexadecimal values that can be changed from privileged mode. Normally, the default value of register is OX2102. Here, OX indicates that the characters that follow are in hexadecimal. So the third character in the configuration register can modify how the router loads the configuration file. That is third character means 0. So the fourth character in the configuration register is known as the boot field. Changing this value will change the booting process. So setting of value to 2100 will always boot the router in Roman mode, and setting to 2101 it will boot the router in RX boot mode, and setting of value to 210F will always load first valid iOS file from flash. So these are the values that we should know. So values of 2 to F for the fourth character specify other iOS image files in the flash. In case there are multiple image files in the flash, we can configure to select them from by setting this fourth value. Router keeps password in startup config file that is stored in NVRAM. So in case we forget the password, तो उस कंडीशन में हम पासवर्ड रिकवरी के लिए जो रजिस्टर की वैल्यू चेंज करते हैं वो होती है 2142. सो आई विल शो यू द practical demo how do we do this in the next video session. तो उसकी वैल्यू हम 2142 कर देंगे, एंड आफ्टर दैट इट विल नॉट आस्क फॉर द पासवर्ड एंड इट विल डायरेक्टली boot to flash. It will ignore the startup config file that is in NVRAM and proceed without configuration. So the setting of 2142 is used for password recovery process of router. So this process is similar to Windows. We'll see Windows और PC. तो हमें इसका ओवरऑल देख लेते हैं। सबसे पहले पोस्ट प्रोसेस चलेगा, उसके बाद कॉन्फ़िगरेशन रजिस्टर की वैल्यू रीड होगी कि आईओएस को कहाँ से लोड करना है, फ्लैश से, टीएफटीपी से, रोम से। सो द प्रायोरिटी विल बी फॉर फ्लैश। इफ देर इज फाइल इन फ्लैश it will be loaded. If there is no file in flash, then router will check for TFTP server. अगर TFTP server से connectivity भी नहीं है, then it will go into Roman mode. Okay, in case iOS file, bin file is present in flash, then the router goes to nvram file to check the configuration of a router. Startup configuration जो हमने अभी डिस्कस किया है. If that is present, it will load and router will boot. If that is not present, then router will go into setup mode and it will ask us whether we want to configure the router for initial configuration. तो अब इसको हम पीसी के कॉन्फ़िगरेशन से कंपेयर कर लेते हैं. जैसे पीसी में पोस्ट प्रोसेस चलता है, दैट चेक्स द ऑल द हार्डवेयर प्रेजेंट, राइट, और हार्डवेयर अटैच टू द मशीन. सिमिलरली राउटर का भी पोस्ट प्रोसेस वैसे ही स्टार्ट होता है. एंड आफ्टर द पोस्ट, ओके, the it goes to BIOS in case of PC, and BIOS value is stored in CMOS. Similarly, in case of router, uh, it goes to bootstrap program that is stored in EEPROM, electrically erasable programmable read-only memory. Okay, अगर उधर इसको bootstrap program मिल जाए, right, then it will go to iOS. It will load the iOS from flash. Similarly, in case of PC, it will check for operating system from which to boot, and that operating system is normally present in hard drive in case of PC. So in case of router, flash से boot करने के बाद, then it will go to NVRAM to check the startup configuration, and in case of PC, it will check the personal settings like configuration done on the PC, and then it boots up. तो यही प्रोसेस हम एक बार फिर रिपीट कर लेते हैं. तो सबसे पहले क्या होता है, मिनी iOS जो बूटस्ट्रैप प्रोग्राम होता है, दैट इज लोडेड. ओके, वी आल्सो कॉल इट स्ट्रिप डाउन version of iOS. This is used in critical situation where iOS image in flash is not found. So mini iOS contains only IP code that allows you to load iOS from other resources such as TFTP server. So this code is already written in the bootstrap program कि अगर flash में iOS नहीं मिलता तो कहाँ से boot करना है. So then it looks for TFTP server. So Cisco iOS mode used by stripped down iOS utility is known as RX boot. राइट, तो हमारा नेक्स्ट स्टेप चला जाता है फ्लैश में. तो फ्लैश में, फ्लैश इज अ नॉन वोलेटाइल मेमोरी, and data stored in flash is not lost when you turn the router off. So you could assume flash as a hard disk of router, like data stored in hard disk remains safe. Router uses flash to store iOS image. So during the boot process, router load iOS file from flash to RAM. तो फ्लैश में से iOS उठाने के बाद राउटर चेक्स फॉर द NVRAM. NVRAM is another permanent memory. Data stored in NVRAM is also remains safe. The router uses NVRAM to store configuration files. NVRAM uses a battery to maintain the data during the power off stage. जैसे मशीन के केस में CMOS बैटरी होती है ना, CMOS चिप जहाँ पे BIOS की सेटिंग स्टोर होती है. सिमिलरली राउटर के केस में भी एक बैटरी होती है that stores the NVRAM configuration files. Okay, after that we have RAM, that is the temporary memory used to store all the current information of the routers, like routing tables, configuration that we do, MAC addresses, etc. So everything in the RAM is erased when you turn off the router. So RAM is the fastest memory among those memories in powered on router RAM. Okay, so the next slide देख लेते हैं. तो ये अगर हम सिस्को के राउटर पे लॉगिन करके शो वर्जन करेंगे तो हमें यहाँ पे नीचे दिखेगी कॉन्फ़िगरेशन रजिस्टर वैल्यू OX2102. दिस मीन्स दैट द राउटर हैज़ टू check the configuration setting from NVRAM. Okay, और अगर हम पासवर्ड भूल गए then we will change the value of this NVRAM to 2142. So in that case it will ignore the startup config file in NVRAM and will take us to Roman mode, and then we will be able to reset the password. गाइस सो नेक्स्ट वीडियो में हम ये प्रैक्टिकल करेंगे. अगर आपको ये वीडियो अच्छा लगे देन प्लीज़ क्लिक ऑन लाइक एंड सब्सक्राइब बटन एंड ऑल्सो गिव मी कमेंट्स इफ यू हैव any. Okay, thanks for watching this video. Have a great day. Bye bye.